In a kingdom of high walls and shining towers, there lived a young prince named Arkan. For Arkan, power was simple. It meant being feared. Along a dusty road, his royal procession came upon a young man named Imani. When the prince's guards, in their usual booming voices, shouted for him to clear the path, Imani stepped back without a word of protest. He offered a respectful bow, but there was something different about it. It wasn't the bow of a man trembling in fear. It was a gesture of simple, genuine courtesy. This, for some reason, annoyed the prince. He reined in his horse, his eyes narrowing. He demanded to know why Imani would show such respect when he clearly had nothing to gain from it. Imani looked up, his expression gentle, and answered softly that respect wasn't a gift one gives in hopes of a reward. It was. He explained, a habit of the heart the prince let out a short. Mocking laugh, he found the idea absurd. To prove his point, he ordered Imani to walk with the royal party, intending to make a spectacle of his strange philosophy. Yet, as the journey continued, it was the prince who began to feel unsettled. Throughout the long day, Imani remained a picture of unshakable calm. He spoke kindly to the servants who trailed behind, offered sincere thanks to the guards for their protection, and listened with genuine attention whenever anyone, no matter their station, had something to say when the prince would fly into a rage over a minor mistake. Imani would quietly step in and correct the error, never placing blame or pointing fingers. When Arkan hurled a cruel insult at a farmer whose cart was blocking the road, Imani later circled back, unnoticed by the prince, to help the farmer fix his broken will, working in shared silence. A subtle shift began to occur. The servants, the guards, even the villagers they passed, started watching Imani more than they watched their own prince. They saw a quiet strength in him, a dignity that Arkan's loud commands could never replicate. That night, their journey was violently interrupted. A ferocious storm descended upon their camp. The wind howled and tore at the tents, and rain fell in blinding sheets. Panic erupted. The guards, trained to follow orders, stood frozen, looking to Prince Arkan for direction. But the prince was overwhelmed. He had never faced chaos he couldn't shout into submission. He froze, unsure and afraid. But Imani did not. While the prince was paralyzed, Imani sprang into action. He didn't shout commands or demand obedience. Instead, with clear, calm instructions, he began to organize the people. He guided the frightened children to the driest, safest shelter he could find. He moved through the wreckage, helping the injured and calming those in distress. He was a steady presence in the heart of the storm by the time the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. The storm had passed, the camp was a wreck, but everyone was safe and in the quiet morning light. Prince Arkan saw something he had never understood before. He saw people working together, not because they were ordered to, but because they were inspired to. He saw loyalty born not from fear, but from gratitude. He watched as Imani, covered in mud but with that same calm in his eyes, shared his own meager water supply with an elderly woman. At that moment, Arkan finally understood. True leadership wasn't about the volume of your voice or the weight of your crown. It was earned through humility, through service, through a respect that you give freely before you ever expect to receive it, as the sun climbed. Higher, Prince Arkan walked over to where Imani was helping to rebuild a collapsed tent. In front of all his guards and servants, the prince lowered his head and bowed. It was a simple gesture, but for him, it was monumental. It was the first time in his life that Prince Arkan had ever bowed to anyone. From that day forward, the kingdom began to see a different prince. The sharp edges of his personality began to soften. He started to speak less and listen more. He learned to say thank you instead of just do this. He sought out the wisdom of the elders he had once dismissed and learned the names of the servants he had once ignored. And when the time came for him to become king, the people of the kingdom followed him not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They remembered the story of the storm and the prince who learned humility. And as for the young traveler who had humbled a prince, Imani simply returned to the road, continuing his journey. He carried nothing more than his small bag and the quiet, unshakable strength that had, in its own small way, changed an entire kingdom. True power, he had shown them all, isn't held in a fist, but offered with an open hand. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to like and subscribe for more.